Here I am at the British Museum, and I'm going through lots of different emotions being here. At the moment, I'm in the Egypt section, as you can see, and though at the same time it's great to be here and to connect, I feel a sadness in my heart that all these temples, ancient temples, were desecrated and put on show. To some level, I understand the importance of that in terms of education, but yet these temples have clearly been desecrated, and I hardly see anyone here of colour, but yet they are here exploring this ancient culture of Kemet, of Egypt. And so here we are. And it's amazing some of the pieces that they have here, as you can see. The scale of some of these pieces are quite remarkable, and it must have been quite a feat of engineering to even get them to this part of the world, let alone a feat of engineering that it must have taken to create them in the first place. It's quite remarkable, really, an incredible thing about coming to a museum is that you can go through some sort of a timeline. So having moved out of this period of Egypt, and now there's the Mesopotamian civilization that's modern day Syria, Iraq, Iran, and it really is quite a joy to be able to, interestingly, in this section here in particular, even though the same thing has happened, there's quite clearly in these reliefs there's a lot of story here. And this one, you can see that there's a tree of life, and there are lots of winged beings. Some with human heads and some with reptilian type heads. As you can see, eagle-headed protective spirit. So yeah, I'm just wondering why I felt a little bit emotional walking through the Egyptian, partly because there were so many people there. Check this out. You can imagine the grandeur of what the temples would have been like back in the day. So here we are in a great hall. It's quite beautiful space. The light is amazing. It's a little bit otherworldly, actually. It's like some sort of huge dome temple and a network of steel and glass as the roof. But a real celebration. I suppose it's a real celebration of human life and anthropology and history. and culture, mystery, and spirituality. It's British Museum is really quite special in that sense, that it really does bring all these things together. Yet the mind does boggle in terms of what they must have done to collect all these things, to have them here on display without having asked permission. But nonetheless, we are where we are now. Things are here and everywhere and scattered. And I suppose all we can really do is hope to put all the dots together and try and make sense of our origins and where we've come from. And I guess this is really celebration here of what I'm talking about here, our ancestry. And so we can inquire and almost walk through the pathways of the ancients. And the creativity that was used to capture these spiritual ideals and spiritual ideas of creation and of humanity and our relationship between this world, each other, and the rest of the universe. So I'm going to leave this here. I mean, this is really quite an extraordinary building, and I know a lot of the buildings in Britain are replicas of ancient Greece and Rome and Egypt, but it's really quite special nonetheless. So I'll leave that with you now. Bye-bye. Okay, I'm in the African section at the lower floors of the British Museum, and I'm facing this piece of sculpture which is made from guns. It's a tree, and it's a very moving piece. A tree and some birds at the bottom, and it's really showing how we have the ability as a species to turn an energy that was incredibly destructive into something beautiful, and to transform and transmute the shadow of humanity into something creative, to breathe life, a creative force into something that was once destructive. By my discoveries in moving through various cultures and what is on display: war, conflict, Christianity, culture, life, love, death, culture, various ways of living, and how really as a species we have been clearly tribal. And I know I'm in Africa, but this isn't exclusive to Africa at all. Is this something that is this something that we can change, or is this something that is always going to be the case? The fact that we are territorial, and as we move and expand into a world where hopefully there'll be no more boundaries, no more borders, what does that mean for that part of the human condition that feels the need to create boundaries and borders and lines, thresholds and ownership? And yet as I walk through these aisles and witness the richness of these tribes and families quite clearly. There is something beautiful and sovereign that these people had something to call their own. And my feeling is that this now belongs to all of us. It's all our responsibilities, and this is something that we all have the potential of harvesting and respecting and honouring. And no matter where you go in the world, you will see pottery. There are certain things, and you will see knives and swords and spears and shields. And there are certain things that are consistent from one culture to the next. Sovereignty, royalty, religion, hierarchy, the elders or the kings and the queens and the common folk. I am just curious in how this is going to evolve as we evolve as a species. And also how spirituality is connected to the cultural system and the social ordering within any culture and tradition. And how here we have some amazing images here of the masquerades and how they would dress and dance around the tribe, around the fire, to exercise and to exorcise the shadow. They are quite frightening, quite scary, that one. So there are so many dots that eventually build some sort of a constellation, a human constellation, all of the attributes that form our culture, our family, our traditions, and what has on some level determined our condition, our collective human condition. So as I walk through these pathways and the tapestry, that's another thing. How weaving is really important throughout the planet, and how one's colours are really important. And if you see the what's happening around the neck, is sort of almost like an adornment of the chakras and the chest. How textile is very important and very personal, but yet is also a universal, something that's universal around the world. Textiles as in fabric to weave as clothing and for wall hangings and flooring. It's one of my favourite ones from West Africa, from Ghana, the kente. It's stunning. It almost looks like patchworking. Stunning. My, oh my. So this looks like from Benin, from Nigeria, Benin City, where they were casting bronze way before this was happening in other parts of the world, 16th century. Which is quite remarkable, the alchemy that was already there and what they were tuning into to create these absolute masterpieces of their culture and their spirituality and the bridge between humanity and spirit, which is very shamanic. There's another one. So I shall leave it here for now. So much to reflect on in this incredible tapestry of different threads and stitches that make us who we are. Namaste. It's a depiction there of our universal need for asking outside of ourselves for healing. And no matter what culture you're in, whether it's Christianity or a indigenous spiritual belief system, it's all the same, whereby you pay homage. So that's quite fascinating. And how in some cultures how important it is to be aware of the shadow and how that's portrayed through the various masks and masquerades. So here we are in a section in the Americas where it's titled Communicating with Spirits, Consulting with Shamans, and how all these tapestries are actually like labyrinths. They actually are communication, they're actually prayers that are imprinted with the various colours. Every little stitch has a meaning, and that's where they all hold their magical, or the instruments that they'd use for the ceremonies. So it's quite interesting. I love South America. Journeying to the spirit world. Clearly another universal concept. That last one was ancient Central America, and this one is Africa, Asia, and Europe. This is another universal concept. All these things, it's writing, use talisman. So yeah, how divination and magic has always been used, and as they start introducing religions, that comes forward even more so. The idea of maintaining health and banishing dis-ease. So of course with the introduction of Catholicism, it continues, but under a different outfit or different guise.